friends. Welcome back to Heal and Learn. This is Zarina, and welcome to everybody on the Grownlearn Podcast. Today, I have a super interesting guest for you. You may have already seen him on the Inspired channel or somewhere else. We're going to be talking about an innovation in healing, extreme healing of the body, of the mind, mental illnesses, spiritual growth, wherever the conversation takes us. I'm welcoming Greg, known as H-Man, Hydrogen Man. Hi, Greg. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun talking to you behind the scenes.
So thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
You're very welcome.
Where do we start, Greg? What is yours? Put this thing on and tell me what it is, first of all.
Well, I am going to be inhaling some pure hydrogen gas while we're doing the show, just because it's really good for my health, and we're just hanging out. So it's a good time for me to do it. Otherwise, I'm always moving around, working and doing different things. So it's hard to have the time to breathe it. But yeah, I'm breathing in pure hydrogen gas. A lot of people don't know the science behind it. They don't really know what it can do.
What is it attached to on the other end?
It's attached to a device called, it's the 2022 Lourdes Hydrofix Premium, a little bit of a long name. If people want to just take a look at it or look at the science behind it, they can go to the official company's website. It's called holyhydrogen.com. And basically, as far as in the world of science, hydrogen has been shown to be just amazing for health. I mean, I've seen things from people with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, glaucoma, diabetes, arthritis. I've seen people with macular degeneration. I mean, all these issues go away. You know, I've seen people with gut issues, and the list is very long. Heart conditions, all sorts of stuff.
The most recent video that I watched on your channel was showing a case of somebody who was in the process of being healed from Alzheimer's, or she was healed, I'm not quite sure, but there was an elderly lady who didn't look very fit, and then a few months later, she was recovered. She had a fresh look on her face after having used hydrogen.
Yeah, that's right. That was, go ahead.
And I know that you have a protocol and you're consulting people on how to use hydrogen properly. But before we go into that, how did you get into hydrogen in the first place?
Yeah, and before I begin, I always like to say I'm not giving any medical advice. I'm not making any medical claims. Everybody consult your physicians for any of your needs. And just to touch on that woman who had the dementia, Alzheimer's, that was an amazing story. I mean, I've seen amazing stories for years. I've been doing this for many, many years. And it was remarkable, not really being able to walk or stand up. Now she's running around, basically. She couldn't even hold a spoon and eat. Now she holds a spoon and eats. She could barely speak. She was slurring her words really bad. Now she's speaking better. It's just, and you can see the difference in the pictures. You can see the life. And that's ultimately what hydrogen appears to be. It really appears to be the molecule of life itself. This is also why it's very spiritual, even though not many people have realized that yet. But it's a highly, highly spiritual molecule. And I got into it, to answer your question. I got into it because I became sick. And, you know, it's funny that I'm not happy about what I went through, if I'm completely being honest with you. I didn't like it at all. It was very painful. I couldn't walk. I would say that it really destroyed me mentally, psychologically. I'm still scarred from it. If I talk about it a little bit more in detail, I start crying because it was such a painful part of my life. If you can imagine the inability to walk, but also having a level 10 pain that couldn't be controlled with any painkiller. There was nothing that made my pain go away. And it was just a very painful time in my life. And I wanted to figure this out. Obviously, the medical field had zero answers for me, which is very common for a lot of people. I mean, I worked in the medical field for like 20 years, so I know exactly what goes on behind the scenes, and I know what they can and cannot do. And there's a lot that they cannot do. And it's very disappointing, considering especially the price that we pay for medical care. And it was just heartbreaking for me. And I thought my life was over. I really did. And some even think that I wouldn't even be alive if it wasn't for hydrogen, because I was that bad. I was so bad. I literally couldn't lift up a remote control. It hurt so bad. I couldn't change the channels. I couldn't play a video game.
Were you ever diagnosed with anything? No.
They didn't really know what was going on. No, they didn't. They couldn't really diagnose me. They found out that I had a heart condition. But I knew that already. I knew I've had a heart condition for so long. My cardiologist was telling me I needed open heart surgery. And as I started learning about the hydrogen and fine tuning it, I got real lucky because I was scared to be all cut open and, get in there. And I used hydrogen. It totally took care of it. I have no more heart condition. And that was unbelievable. My cardiologist was just like, how did it just disappear? I tried to tell him about hydrogen. He didn't pay much attention to it. He's like, I'm just, you got better. Hey, let it go. And I'm like, dude, this is too important to let go. There have been other people who've had the same condition that I have or had, and theirs went away also. So it's clearly worked for multiple people. In fact, hydrogen's actually it's approved in Japan for heart attacks. So people with heart stuff. It's also been approved for strokes. They're doing research on the dementia and Alzheimer's.
It's medically used in hospitals. Okay. And so who
ambulances too.
Ambulances. Okay. And so who opened you up on the topic of hydrogen?
You know what? I was reading. So one of the things that I do when I do a lot of research and try to find answers to things, I do many things. I'm intuitive. I definitely have good gut instincts that guide me, things that make sense. I look at a lot of the science and I try to weigh all these things out to find something that's worth pursuing, because if you try to pursue everything, which I did try to do at one point, there's infinite things that they're telling you are good for you. And I spent a small fortune on different pieces of equipment, different supplements. I mean, I threw so much money at this thing, and I really figured out that the answer to, in my opinion, the majority of medical issues is not that expensive. I usually tell people under $5,000, but under 5,000 gets you a lot. It gets you, you're going to need a really good blender. You're going to need a hydrogen generator. You're going to need a carbon distiller. There's just a few things that you're going to need. And once you get them, they last years and years. Sometimes some of them will just last forever. And so they're just kind of no-brainers, in my opinion. And that's how I was just always reading the latest science, because I learned through reading the latest data that hospitals and even the medical field, even though there's data out there, it doesn't mean that they implement it for years. It could be 1 or 2 decades before they decide to implement something. And so I had to look on my own, and I stumbled upon hydrogen. And the more I read about it, I thought it was a hoax. I was like, this sounds, too good to be true. There's no way this is real. And I read it for almost 4 years of data thinking, no, this can't possibly, it was way too good to be true. And hydrogen really is. It's something that's just way too good to be true. It's hard to make sense of it, but it is amazing. And I've seen it work. And it's one of those things that actually works. There's so much stuff out there that, in my opinion, the majority doesn't work. And it's totally life-changing. And it's changed a lot of people's lives that I personally know, and through the internet, and obviously my life. And but yeah, just reading a lot of the scientific data. And then eventually I thought, okay, this stuff's so great. How do you make it? And that's where the struggle really got bigger than just reading scientific data, which was really a struggle too. It's so boring to read a lot of the data. It's one of the reasons I made my YouTube channel, was to make it easy for people to understand. And I did make a promise that I would share this information if I ever found a solution for myself. So that's kind of how it all got started.
Mm-hmm. And so are you only breathing in the hydrogen, or you're also drinking it? How did you discover that you need to do both? Was this your own observation?
Primarily, scientific data first started with really inhalation of the gas, because you get much larger amounts of hydrogen. So the scientists assumed that the inhalation of the gas would be superior as to dissolving it in water. So you can dissolve the gas. It's a gas. So you can dissolve it in water, kind of like soda pop has a gas in it, CO2. And so you can dissolve it in water, and the levels of hydrogen that you would get were much lower. But the scientists in time discovered that the water had literally greater benefit than the inhalation. And so they were like, this is kind of wild. So they would notice certain benefits from the water, certain benefits from the gas inhalation, and then some things that they both did. Either way, they would do certain things. And I created a protocol based on data that I found that it had never been studied before, actually. I'm the guy who created it, and then everybody started copying it. A protocol where you use the water and the gas in a certain way. And I just had a very strong gut instinct, and my logic was showing me, based on other scientific data that was actually about different gases that I had researched, that it should work. And then eventually there were some studies done on my protocol, and it did show that I was right, that it did create. So although the water does certain things and the gas does certain things, and I'm not going to go into all those things because the lists are extremely long, and you use them together, and now other things are happening that neither one did individually. And that's where it really got interesting, because doing both activated something else. And I have other ideas. I have all sorts of ideas that have been coming to me. Sometimes I wonder, to be honest, I feel like the hydrogen's speaking to me. That's how crazy this is getting. But people don't seem to understand that hydrogen is not only the source of life, but I mean, look at the sun. The sun is primarily made of hydrogen. Some people might argue like, well, it's also made of helium. Guess what? Helium is a form of hydrogen. So it's primarily, it's primarily hydrogen. And that's our star, and all the stars in the cosmos, and even the universe is made of primarily hydrogen. I believe it's almost 80%. So it's huge. And any living thing on the planet, whether it's, plants, animals, humans, whatever, you remove hydrogen, they'll just die. Hydrogen is the source of all life. Just water is primarily made of hydrogen. So, it just goes on and on. It's incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, the whole bodily effect is absolutely fascinating, and I encourage people to go to your channel, Uprising 144K. Is this the name of your channel?
Yeah, everything's free on there. I give it all away, even against maybe my better judgment. Everybody tells me I should have charged, but I give it away for free. So go to the channel. If you subscribe, you can check out everything for free, and also it helps support the channel. And I recommend for people to share with others. So there's a lot of people out there who are suffering from different medical ailments, and they don't know that this is an option, and doctors don't know, so they don't really know any better. And so, yeah.
And so how long did it take for you to see any improvement on your condition?
It really depends. For me personally, the heart condition, I believe, took about 6 to 8 months, and then it was gone.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's not like a silver bullet where you use it once or use it twice. Hydrogen's almost like a multivitamin, or it's almost like eating or drinking water. It's something that you're going to do every day. And even eating healthy, you can eat healthy for a day or a week. It's not going to make a huge difference unless you kind of eat healthy regularly, and exercise also. So all those things, you're going to want to do it regularly, which is why one of the things I learned about hydrogen that nobody talks about, I'm literally the only guy who talks about it, is the purity of the hydrogen is extremely important. Because if there's impurities and you're using it for a long term, you can actually cause issues. And I've seen that. I've seen a lot of people who want to try to go the cheap route. They use devices that use like lye, sodium hydroxide. It's a chemical to try to make hydrogen. You never want to use lye to make hydrogen. It's a really foolish move. And you don't have to. If you use proper technology, you would never have to use lye. It's just that people do it because it's cheap. And it's a problem because it's highly caustic. Lye is terrible. It's like the main ingredient in Drano. So it's terrible stuff.
Is this what you mentioned in your previous interview, was producing brown gas, or is this something different?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Brown's gas is something that, me personally, I follow the data. There really is no data on Brown's gas, and any preliminary data doesn't look super good because all the benefit comes from the hydrogen. And so Brown's gas just happens to have hydrogen in it along with other gases that are potentially dangerous. So it's best just to get pure hydrogen, do it correctly. And then hydrogen is probably the most pure substance on planet Earth or in the universe, as far as I know, even more pure than oxygen. It's very, very safe.
Yeah. I would like to talk maybe in detail another time about the physical aspects of hydrogen, but there's so much information on your channel that people might as well just hop in. But what got me really curious was also the spiritual aspect of hydrogen. And you said that you're a very intuitive person. And even before you discovered hydrogen, you said you were intuitive. And later on, you said you feel like it's lifting you up, it's ascending you in a way. But before we get there, I watched yesterday just the beginning of one of your interviews with Mr. Astrotheology. Yes, Santos Bonacci. Yeah. And a lot of people know Santos Bonacci because some of the people that watch my channel are also into astrology. So for sure they know him. And I remember seeing Santos a few years ago, and I thought to myself, gosh, I think they might be doing some mental weapon on him or something like that, because he really doesn't look good. I thought they were attacking him in alternative ways. And then I saw him, and I see that he's already recovered. He looked like a ghost a few years ago, and now he's kind of recovering. And you said that you've consulted him on using hydrogen. So
yeah, it's interesting when you bring up the astrology aspect of it. A lot of people don't realize, obviously, astrology is a study of the stars, and we already touched on the subject that stars are they're made of hydrogen. And so it's a study of hydrogen is a huge component of this. And when I was speaking to Santos, just kind of stumbled upon each other, and we got to talk one time, and hydrogen came up, and he immediately told me, I know about hydrogen. I know that it's amazing because I understand astrology and all these ancient scriptures. And he really knew that hydrogen was something important, special. What he did not know, that happened to be my specialty, is he didn't know how to apply it. He's like, well, how would I get hydrogen in my body exactly? Am I going to go swallow a star? I mean, do I sit out in the sun? I mean, how exactly do I get this hydrogen in the body? And that's where I came into the picture. And it was, it was probably aligned in the stars that this was supposed to happen. I really believe that. And so we got to learn a lot from each other. And then I showed him how to do it. And then it significantly improved his health. In fact, I just spoke to him like a week or two ago, and he's like, dude, I am feeling so good. So much better than I ever had before, and I've seen it change a lot of people's lives. And every time it's hard to believe. I mean, it really is, because I've never seen anything work like this. I mean, there's so much, I hate to say it, but there's so much garbage out there. We've been infiltrated with so much crap that we don't know what's real from what's not real. And it makes it difficult. And that's the reason I try to line up things from many different areas. And if they all can pass my test, then it's something that's worth trying. And hydrogen it's clear as day. It's clear as day that this stuff is the real deal. And and when you see that dementia patient's pictures, wow. I mean, it really brought that life. There's another story like that, but I didn't have the pictures, but it was a remarkable story about a doctor who just could not heal their own mother, who was in her 90s. And hydrogen changed her life. And the doctor was a female doctor from Canada. She was blown away by what she was witnessing. And she even did some live blood analysis of the hydrogen, because I had showed some video footage from Japan about it. And she just couldn't believe it. She actually said, it's impossible. There's no way that hydrogen's doing this to the blood. And she performed the exact same test to verify and validate it. And the results came back the same. And she said, this stuff's the real deal. This is something that the world needs to know about. And it's going to change the world of medicine. And it's going to change the world in a lot of other factors that I already know what hydrogen can do in other realms, which I won't mention here right now, but it'll change. It could change the whole world. Seriously, change the whole world.
The co-host of Santos mentioned that he had been using hydrogenated water. I'm not quite sure if that's what you call it. Hydrogen enhanced water for the previous 6 days. And he said he felt like it was absorbed by his every cell. So suddenly the cells were kind of drinking water completely, while previously it was just passing through, which is really interesting. And you quoted, I believe, something from the Bible, a verse from the Bible that talked about hydrogen.
I found multiple verses. There's multiple verses that this is one of the weird things that's been happening. It seems to me that when we get the proper levels of hydrogen in our body, it's almost like activating something. And it's kind of weird to say this, because I'm not really one of these, I'm open-minded, very open-minded, but not a huge tinfoil hat, kind of like, oh, this crystal on my head is making me feel, the entire universe or something, I don't know. I'm not super into that, but this has had a profound effect on me, and it's kind of connecting me to something. And I get all sorts of, I've had all sorts of visions, crazy ideas of things that I know could revolutionize the world. And I'm thinking, man, where's this stuff coming from? Because I'm not that brilliant. And so I do think that it definitely has a very powerful impact on almost like aligning us. Everything's frequencies, and hydrogen has a natural frequency. And if it can bring us into alignment in certain frequencies, it can connect us to the source of all life, which is where I think really all the answers come from.
Well, if it really has such an effect on all areas of your body, all parts of your body, then it's completely cleansed your pineal gland. So this automatically connects you already to the one consciousness. So you're able to download whatever you want. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the minimum explanation. Yeah.
And hydrogen does go into, for example, just the mitochondria. They stop working properly as you age. That's the science of data. It goes in there, it neutralizes free radicals, because hydrogen's so tiny. And it kind of reminds me of a verse from Jesus, actually, when he talked about the faith the size of a mustard seed, something just so tiny. And that's hydrogen. And why would people think that having faith in something this tiny has anything to do with anything? Well, hydrogen, based on This is my personal theory. Nobody's ever talked about this. But basically, I believe that that's what responds to our words, our thoughts, our prayers, everything, because it's everywhere. I mean, it's literally an entire universe, entire cosmos, in everything, in plants, in food. I mean, it's in water. I mean, it's in us. It's in everything. So
Do
a
you
lot
think
of
that's
a lot
the
of people.
ether? Do you think that's the ether that people talked about, that it's actually hydrogen?
I think it plays a definite role. I mean, it's hard to go into it right now because we're probably limited on time, but hydrogen's a door. It's a door. And it's a door to knowledge that the world's never known. And if they did know it, it's been a long time ago. It's in ancient cultures, ancient scriptures. I found it. I mean, by accident. Actually, it reminds me of that other verse where it says, "Knock and the door shall be open," or whatever. It's another scriptural verse. I just don't think that people really understood what was really being talked about. And I think it's been a message. Obviously, I feel like they've tried to take over the message and turn it into a business, right? Give us 10%, just come to church every Sunday, one of these type of things. And they're not really telling people the truth. I don't even think they know the truth anymore. I think that it's so lost that they don't even know it. There's a very interesting Bible verse. It's really a funny one because I get a lot of things like downloads and things that come to me. I remember one time, one of the ones that came to me was, the scriptures were never intended for man. And when I heard that, I was like, wait a second, what are you talking about? It's the number one book selling of all time, for example, the Bible. How would it not be intended for man? It doesn't even make sense. But then there's a verse that literally says, interpretation of the scriptures is not like for man to do. It's not up to man. So it's not up to man to interpret the scriptural verses. So here we got all these people trying to interpret these scriptural verses saying, oh, this is what the mustard seed means or whatever. And it goes on to say, it's up to God. God is the one who interprets the writings, because you can interpret the writings in so many ways. And then it says, that's why God has appointed or chosen prophets, because it's the prophets that will get the message and ultimately deliver, the message, because otherwise it can be, I think, greatly misguided. And I think it has been. I think, it just reminds me of another verse where they say, when Jesus said, many false prophets will come bearing my name. And I feel like we see that all the time. In Jesus' name, give me 10% and a private jet, or something, And so you see a lot of that. And I think we're getting closer to ultimately the truth coming out. And I definitely think hydrogen's going to play a role, as crazy as that may sound, but it is the light of the world. I mean, it's hydrogen,
Amazing,
rainbows
amazing.
in the sky, God's bow, all sorts of verses. There's tons of them.
Wow. It's really impressive. So we have so much to talk about, Greg. I would love you to come another time to talk about the spiritual aspect of hydrogen, about possibly, if you decide to open up, about your experiences with stargates, things like that, a bit more esoteric
Hydrogen
stuff.
doors.
Hydrogen doors.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and anything else you would like to share? Yeah.
Oh, I would just say, if people want to hear more, then I encourage people to comment below and say, hey, we'd like to hear more, just because otherwise, it makes me feel like, okay, I should share more. And if people are not interested, then I don't necessarily need to go into it. It's okay. I think the biggest thing that I want to let people know is, like, there's a physical aspect, which is if people have medical issues, definitely look into it. Pain, it's no fun to live with pain. It's no fun to be dependent on these pharmaceutical drugs. I've known a lot of people who've just gotten off the pharmaceutical drugs because of hydrogen. And I don't think that pharmaceutical companies would want the world to know about hydrogen. Even in Japan, they tried to shut it down. I don't know if you're aware of that, but they tried to get rid of hydrogen in Japan, and they were the first to discover this. And it was a long battle for them to get it approved. And they showed beyond the shadow of a doubt, this stuff is real and it works. So now they approved it, and they could not say no because there was too much data. And of course, they weren't pharmaceutical companies funding these studies. So this is something that is definitely real, and I think people could really benefit from. And so I really hope that people share it with others, and I hope that it can help people. Just like this lady who had dementia. I mean, the daughter was, she was so happy. She's like, I cannot, she literally said the same thing I said. She said, I can't believe how good it's working. I've never seen anything like this work like this on her. And it's life transforming. It sucks to be again, medical issues or dementia, one of the number one killers, I believe, in the UK or something. I mean, it's a terrible disease. I've witnessed it myself multiple times, and it's so sad. And so I really hope that hydrogen can bring some happiness, to the world, and healing to the world. A lot of H's there: happiness, healing, hydrogen. I just noticed.
I don't want to rush you at all, Greg, because I'm super curious in all the things you have to say. And just one last part for this bit that I would like to briefly touch is, according to your observations, is hydrogen also helping people that have had some side effects or issues with the little prick that people were?
Yeah, let's be careful with that one. I will say that I do know of actual data. Again, following the science. Again, the Japanese do very different studies than a lot of America. And they did find some interesting data in regards to having this well-known virus and the way that it affects the body, the hydrogen affects the body, but it really appears that it would help. I've seen it help a great deal. I also think that for the little prick, that I did hear of some people who've been doing blood work and they've seen the difference also. So I think that's one thing that can really, really help. And of course, there's other things like vitamin D and other modalities, but I think combining them, that's the one thing about hydrogen that I've noticed. It seems to raise the ability of so many things. It seems to make vitamin D work even better in the body, the vitamin C, even medications, which is an interesting one, even pharmaceuticals. For example, if you take a pharmaceutical pill for blood pressure, I told people, be careful. There was multiple people, but one example that I'm thinking of is this woman who had really high blood pressure. And no matter how much pharmaceutical medication she would take, it would never reach a certain point. She could only reach a certain point and she just couldn't go beyond that. She started using the hydrogen and I told her to be cautious and she didn't think she had to be because she's like, oh, my blood pressure never goes low. She started getting dizzy and she checked it. Her blood pressure was extremely low, lower than it's ever been in her life, she said. And so she had to back off the medication. And she backs off the medication and then it starts getting to a nice healthy level. Hydrogen also appears to help against side effects. So any side effects from pharmaceuticals is important. And eventually she's actually gone off the high blood pressure medication. And I've seen that a lot with a lot of people. So it's just one of those things that to watch out for when you start using it, because it just enhances things, but it enhances the good attributes. As far as negative attributes, it seems to actually protect you. And that's what I find so fascinating about hydrogen, is the way that it works. Even the world of science knows that it works because they can see it working, but they can't quite figure out exactly why or how. I mean, there's certain things that they've discovered that it works as something called a selective antioxidant. So selective meaning, this thing has a brain of its own. It's the craziest thing. They'll do some things, won't do some things, just selectively chooses. And that's just one thing. The water has been shown to produce ghrelin, which is a precursor to HGH, human growth hormone. And there's a lot of health benefits in regards to ghrelin, which is something produced typically when you're fasting. They don't know why it does that either. I actually believe I do know why. Like I said, hydrogen is almost communicating with me, and all these questions that they have, I believe I have the answers. A lot of my answers have already been proven to be accurate, but I still have so much more that has never even been tested. And it sounds crazy. It really does sound crazy to say, hey, hydrogen's communicating with me. And maybe it isn't, maybe it is. I don't know. But I certainly have a lot of, I can almost see how it's working. And it's complex, yet simple, a lot like water. Water is, complex and also incredibly simple. And I just think water is a beautiful thing. And so is hydrogen.
Are you using two separate devices for the inhalation and the water? Maybe you can tell us a bit more about the device that you're using, because it's a special one with purity, without the lye and without producing brown gas.
Yeah, it makes both the water and the gas. It was developed by the Japanese. It's the #1 hydrogen company in the world. They have more technology in regards to hydrogen than anyone, patented technology. But it's great that it does both, because that way you don't have to buy separate pieces of equipment, and it does both at a high level. So it's the only machine that is actually lab tested and certified in the world. There is no lab tested certified hydrogen machines. This is the only one. And I don't really, based on lab data and experiences, I don't trust any of the ones made from China, Taiwan, or Korea. The Japanese are literally the elite when it comes to hydrogen technology, especially for your health. There's a lot of other products, cheap little Chinese bottles and pills. And I've released lab data showing that they're not a good idea to use such things. And luckily it's very cheap too. Normally, technology like this to get hydrogen gas, like what I'm breathing in, would have been, $100,000 or something. And you would have needed very special equipment. And now it's under $2,500. I even know coupons if people want coupon codes to get it a little cheaper. And you can just make hydrogen literally for pennies, where in Japan they sell like just a little hydrogen pouch of water would be, $7 or something. You'd have to drink like 3 of those a day for it to be therapeutic. So that would be, I don't know, $21 a day or even $20 a day, could get real expensive after a while. I think that would be what, $140 a week or something. That'd be over $500 a month just for one person. I've known many doctors who are using it, and it was so expensive because they were buying pills and just the wrong way to do hydrogen, buying cases of the water. Then they saw my videos and they said, this is silly. Why don't we just buy a hydrogen generator? You can make all the water you want, inhale all the gas you want, super cheap to maintain. And they made it very easy to take care of and use. They just made it easy, which has just been such a blessing.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'll put the code for you below. But people can also check out directly with you on your channel, or would you like to leave an email behind, or shall I just direct people to your channel?
Well, people can go to the YouTube channel. They can email me at uprising144k@gmail.com if they want. But if they are interested in the device or learning more about it or the science, I would just go to the official company's website. They have all the information there, and that's holyhydrogen.com. And you can, view everything there also. So those are the options.
Mm-hmm. And have you seen anything regarding rejuvenation when using hydrogen?
Yeah, there is some data showing...
clearly when people heal, they look better. Like this lady with the Alzheimer's, she recovered the color on her face, and she definitely looked like 5-10 years younger.
She looked so much better. It was just beautiful, right? I just love when people heal it and feel better, and we're humbled by the sickness, and then we have a lot of joy that comes through afterwards. But I would say that based on the data, they have shown that it's anti-aging. Remember, it is a life molecule. So there was a really interesting study. I don't know if you want me to go into it, but they were taking people's blood, and in Japan, they can literally see roughly your age by looking at your blood.
Okay.
And this particular guy, they took his blood. He didn't change anything in his lifestyle. The only thing he changed was drinking the hydrogen water. He didn't even do my protocol of the water and the gas. He just did the water. And after 1 year of using it, they tested his blood again, and his blood was 5 years younger after 1 year. Mm-hmm. And of course, in Japan, it's used as a beauty product. It's amazing for the skin. It has these anti-aging aspects to it. And it does seem to accelerate healing also. There's been many people who, like one recently, this guy hurt his ankle and he recovered so fast. He's like, whoa, I didn't expect to recover that fast, especially being old. He was older. He thought he was going to be down for a long time. Numerous people. The stories are real long of being able to recuperate, even for athletes. This is something that can change the world of athletics. The fast recovery. They've shown improved performance with a bunch of soccer players in Japan, improving performance. 100% of them, every single one of them improved their endurance, and that's a huge one. And it just goes on and on. I really could literally probably talk for 3 hours straight just giving information on this.
I have so many questions for you, Greg. I'm really hoping you come back, because I want to hear about your other downloads as well, also about the parasite cleanse regarding parasites and nutrition. I think the breadth of information you have on this topic is also significant. So I'd love to hear more from you. Hope you come back.
Hydrogen. Yeah. Oh, of course. I will. Even information on how hydrogen affects parasites. That was shocking to me. I did not expect it to bring parasitic numbers down in the body. I just didn't expect that. And that's what they saw when they were doing a specific liver. It was a study done on the liver. And I've seen people with fatty liver disease and cirrhosis of the liver literally heal their livers too with hydrogen. It's just what this stuff can't do. It's hard to find something it can't do, because this stuff is unbelievable. It's just unreal.
Have you had any cases on addictions, alcohol, drugs, something like that?
That's an interesting one, because yes. I mean, is it going to just do it for you? Obviously not. But
Yeah.
if I go into the data of how it works, I could go into the data, or I can just give you a simple answer. But yes, ultimately, I definitely have seen a difference in regards to that. And even things like PTSD, it's just wild. I didn't think it would help with even stress. And there was a study done on actually mice, and it was helping them with stress. And I thought, well, that's weird, because hydrogen's not a therapist. Why would it help mice with stress? And ultimately, meditating on it, and then boom, it came to me. And it has to do, and I looked it up, and sure enough, I did find data of the way how hydrogen affects stress hormones. So it seems to help, litigate this, overproduction of a stress hormone. And of course, that's going to help you biologically if you can reduce stress hormones. And so again, what can hydrogen not do? It'd almost be easier to say the things that it can't do rather than things that it can, because it does so much. So.
Wow. Super interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much once again. So guys, go to Uprising 144K. I'll put all the links below that you need, and the email of Greg. And I'm hoping to welcome him again in 2 weeks.
All right. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have time to do it again.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg.
All right. You're very welcome.